The certified letter demanding $250,000 arrived on the same day I buried my father. And that is when the power-hungry HOA board president made the biggest mistake of her pathetic life. Picture this. I'm standing in my own driveway, still wearing my funeral suit, red cemetery dirt clinging to my shoes. The metallic taste of pure rage fills my mouth as I read a legal notice claiming I owe them a fortune for existing on land my grandfather bought in 1952. The diesel fumes of a garbage truck can't mask the sickeningly sweet perfume of Karen Whitmore as she struts across the street. Fake sympathy drips from her Botoxed lips. "Timing's unfortunate, Marcus," she purrs, "but business is business." Here's what Karen didn't know. I wasn't just fighting for my workshop. I was about to discover a secret buried in a 70-year-old map. That meant I legally owned half of her precious neighborhood. My name is Marcus Castellano. I'm a third-generation contractor. This whole mess is about 3 acres of land my grandfather Antonio bought in 1952 for $800 cash. Back then, it was just cornfields. Now, it's the last piece of authentic history in a sea of suburban plastic. The heart of it is the workshop, where my grandfather taught my father, and my father taught me. It's the only thing I have left of them. Now meet the villain, Karen Whitmore, HOA president. She has the kind of aggressively blonde hair that screams, "I demand to speak to your manager," and lives in a McMansion with an Italian fountain that cost more than my truck. She smiles while stabbing you in the back, then acts shocked when you bleed on her carpet. Years ago, a developer built the Willowbrook Estates subdivision literally around our property. They offered my grandpa a fortune to sell. He refused. God bless his stubborn Italian soul, but as more families moved in, they started seeing our workshop, our legacy, as an eyesore. Karen's campaign against me started small. Noise complaints, demands that I hide my equipment. Then it escalated. 6 city inspections in 3 months, all of them finding nothing. But Karen wasn't looking for a violation. She was looking for a weapon, and she decided to create one herself. What would you do if someone used your darkest moment of grief to try and destroy you? Tell me your wildest revenge fantasy in the comments below. Let's hear it. The legal notice was a masterpiece of fiction. It claimed my workshop violated HOA rules that didn't exist when it was built. It demanded I demolish my grandfather's legacy and slapped me with daily $500 fines. While Karen was celebrating with a glass of overpriced Chardonnay, I was doing something revolutionary, actual research. Buried in my father's old files, I found it. The original 1952 property deed. My grandfather never signed any HOA agreement. Our land predated her entire subdivision by 51 years. Her legal threat was worth less than the paper it was printed on, but Karen wasn't just bluffing. She was building an army. She held a community safety meeting with a PowerPoint presentation titled "Protecting Our Community Values." She posted photos of my equipment in a Facebook group, calling my business an industrial hazard. So, I walked into their next HOA meeting unannounced. I spread my grandfather's deed across their conference table and calmly explained the legal reality. Karen's response? She waved her manicured hand and claimed my grandfather had illegally exempted himself. The board, her loyal puppets, voted to proceed with legal action. That's when I gave my first warning. "Karen," I said, looking her dead in the eye, "you might want to double-check your legal position before this gets expensive for everyone." Pause the story on a dramatic shot of Marcus staring down Karen. Determined music starts. Before we get to the part where I uncover the secret that could bankrupt her entire neighborhood, do me a favor. If you believe family and legacy are worth fighting for, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You do not want to miss Karen's downfall. Karen's response was to hire a downtown law firm with suits more expensive than my truck. They claimed the HOA had the power to seize my land. It was a bluff so stupid it told me everything. She wasn't trying to enforce rules. She was trying to steal my family's land, banking on the idea that a grieving son couldn't afford to fight back. What she didn't realize was that while she was playing checkers, I was about to introduce her to 3D chess. My attorney, Rebecca, gave me one piece of advice. Document everything and let them punch themselves in the face. So I did. I installed cameras, and Karen's next move was a gift. She discovered a storage shed my grandfather built in 1998 was technically unpermitted. The city had to issue a violation, a $50,000 fine. Karen celebrated at the next HOA meeting, like she'd already won. But while she was popping champagne, I was in the county archives digging through dusty maps from the 1940s, and that's where I found it. The crack in Karen's perfect little world. When the developer built Willowbrook Estates, their surveyor made a whoopsie. They had accidentally included a chunk of my family's land in their development plan. Several houses in Karen's precious neighborhood, including her own backyard gazebo, were built partially on my property. The HOA's community playground? It sat entirely on land my grandfather had been paying taxes on for 50 years. But wait, it gets better. Buried in a dusty file cabinet, I found a 1953 agreement. It granted my grandfather exclusive water rights to the natural spring that fed the entire area. Every drop of water for their perfect green lawns, their retention pond, even Karen's ridiculous Italian fountain. It all came from my spring. She'd been trying to fine me into bankruptcy while she was literally stealing my water. I commissioned a new survey. The results were devastating. 12 houses encroached on my land. The entire road system providing access to 47 homes crossed my property. I legally had the power to put a gate at the main entrance and shut down the entire neighborhood. Karen's panic was immediate. She called an emergency meeting, suddenly interested in a reasonable compromise. She offered me $75,000 for land worth 10 times that. "We can work this out like neighbors," she pleaded. But it was too late for that. The woman who delivered. Legal threats on my father's funeral day was about to learn that karma doesn't just come for you. Sometimes it brings friends. And a surveyor. The final showdown was at a town hall meeting so packed, the local paper called it the Willowbrook Showdown. News cameras were everywhere. This wasn't a neighborhood dispute anymore. It was a public execution. Karen went first, playing the victim. She called me a threat, an industrial menace, a danger to their children. The crowd just murmured. They'd heard the lies before. Then it was my turn. I didn't raise my voice. I just put the facts on the big screen behind me. First, my grandfather's 1952 deed. Then the new surveyor maps. A collective gasp went through the room as people saw their own houses sitting on my land. I explained the water rights. I explained the road access. I looked out at the silent, shocked faces. "I could legally shut off your water supply tomorrow," I said calmly. "I could force every encroaching homeowner to relocate their houses. I could demand 8 years of back rent for trespassing." You could have heard a pin drop. Karen's face was sheet white. "But I'm not going to do any of that," I continued. "Because unlike some people, I'm not interested in destroying a community. I'm offering a path forward." The applause was thunderous. Karen rushed the microphone, screaming about blackmail and conspiracies. Security had to escort her from the building as her own neighbors looked away in shame. Cut to a montage of positive changes. Neighbors shaking hands, the Italian fountain being removed, a community BBQ in Marcus's backyard. The aftermath was swift. The HOA settled, paying fair market compensation for the land and water rights. Karen was convicted for filing a false EPA report and her husband for vandalism. They divorced, sold their house at a loss, and vanished. The community healed. We elected a new HOA board, decent people. They even invited me to be an advisor. The first thing we did, we revived the annual neighborhood barbecue, held in my backyard. Watching my daughter flip burgers on the same land Karen tried to steal, that was the sweetest victory of all. My dad's workshop is safe. the legacy continues, stronger than ever. Because sometimes you're not just fighting for a piece of land. You're fighting for everyone who came before you, and everyone who will come after. Thanks for being here with us at HOA Stories. If you enjoyed today's showdown and seeing an HOA Karen get put in her place, click like, sound off in the comments, and subscribe to catch the next week's drama. You don't want to miss it.